Welcome back to Fast Money. Check out this video. You're looking at a Boeing 737 MAX plane with passengers on board. The company conducting a high-stakes flight today in a show of confidence that it is safe to fly. Let's get to Phil LeBeau, who's got the details. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Melissa, you saw those people there at the end? Those were reporters, journalists, av geeks. It's what you call a media flight, part of American trying to show reporters and restore confidence with the public that, look, this is a safe plane. And the good news for American, this is a really uneventful flight. I talked with a couple of reporters who were on it. They said, felt like any other 737 that takeoffs and lands. They had made this flight after upgrading, putting in new flight control software, making all of the changes necessary required by the FAA in the cockpit, as well as with the training procedures for the pilots. Remember, the first MAX flight, it happens between Miami and New York City. That happens at the end of this month. So as you look at the MAX coming back in service, you've got American at the end of this month, United in the first quarter, and then in the second quarter, we'll get Southwest. Remember, Southwest has more 737 MAXs than any other airline. As you look at shares of American, remember, they have 24 of these MAXs, and they're going to feather them into the schedule during the first quarter. And for Boeing, this is good news. Remember, they just got the airworthiness certification for the first one that was parked, has been built out in the Seattle area. So now they can start to begin deliveries. It's not going to happen immediately in terms of a ton of them being delivered, but they'll slowly ramp up production. So this is certainly good news for Boeing. And for American, you're going to see more of this, Melissa. More of these confident flights leading up to December 29th. The rest of them that are scheduled this month, they're with American employees. But, you know, they'll get plenty of press. And eventually they're hoping that people will be like, okay, so the MAX is flying, and that it fades from the memory. That's the hope for American right now.
I mean, certainly good for Boeing, who can get the planes off their balance sheet at this point, Phil. I mean, sitting in the desert does them no good. In terms of feathering in those flights, is it because there needs to be a total retraining of all the pilots for these planes, and so they wouldn't even be able to just start flying them?
I talked with one pilot today who said, look, I'm scheduled to go in, I think, December 12th. I mean, that's what it is right now. You have got to get these pilots in for their certification so that they're up to speed. And I think the pilot training, it depends on exactly how they handle it. I think it's going to take something like 6 hours, 7 hours. It might even be less than that, Melissa. So it takes a little bit of time. You just can't have them, the thousands of pilots go into the system all at one time. And that's the way they're going to be working on this. Plus, they've got to update all of these planes. I mean, they are working their way through it right now.
Yep. Phil, thank you. Phil LeBeau in Chicago. Tim, I would think it's good for Boeing.
It's good for Boeing, and certainly let's see what United and Southwest, who are the more important customers here, frankly, to getting some of those mothballed planes pulled out of the desert. But the expectation on this is, look, this is great news. This is a storyline that I'm glad to hear has gotten better for the company. It's obviously been a tragic tale for a couple of years now, and the real issue for Boeing, though, is not really about the MAX. It's really about the down 40% on passenger volume that airplanes have had. Look, I flew yesterday. I flew on Delta. It was a great experience. The airports were I thought, well choreographed and clean. I think there's more confidence coming back. Obviously, people need to be very, very safe and careful in how they travel. But I think the passenger demand side of this is what this trade is about at this point. Boeing is going to be back to cash flow positive by the end of 2021. It's not a balance sheet issue. It's a demand issue. And I think that's why the stock continues to inch higher as demand inches higher.
You agree with that, Guy?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thesis that Tim outlined in his power pitch a while back when the stock was, I think, in the mid 180s. Here we are at 220, and, we thought maybe we'd get back to the levels we saw on June 5th, which, if memory serves, Boeing topped out around 230. So that's right in the crosshairs. In terms of the airlines, Delta's been a name I know that we've been sort of steadfast on, and here we are at $41. If you're playing the home game, this is actually a pretty logical level to take some money off the table. It's a 50% retracement of the February high and that May 15th low. Remember, the airlines bottomed out in May, not March. So 41.5, 42 makes sense to be taking money off the table in Delta, in my opinion.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.